So in this video, we're talking about going psychoactive with hypnosis and clean. So I'm going to be sharing in this video with you a model that comes from David Grove, the New Zealand psychotherapist, hypnotist, change worker, who developed what came to be known as clean language. Now, I've already said this elsewhere. I don't like the term clean language that much. I think it draws attention away from what the work is really about, but that is the name that sticks. For me, this is deep, powerful, evocative, hypnotic work. It's not really about the language. It's about the experience that unfolds through the facilitation that you do, okay? But clean language is the term. David Grove is the guy who developed it, and he had this model that he called the Four Quadrant Model. I want to share this with you because whether you're a clean language practitioner or not, it's a pretty useful model if you want to work with people in highly impactful ways. If you're a coach, if you're a hypnotist, and you want to really create a powerful impact, you really want to bring a lot of rich material through your client and be able to work collaboratively with them with that material. Very high impact way of working. This solves some problems that sometimes show up in more classical approaches to hypnotism, the problem of depth or absorption, how you deepen an experience. This model shines a light on it. The clean way of working solves that problem. It also shines some light on that thorny issue of whether or not clean language really is conversational hypnosis or not. I've mentioned it in conjunction with conversational hypnosis. I've had some people say, yeah, but James, it's not really, is it? So we're going to look at that all through the lens of this model. Okay, so let me lay this out. This video is brought to you in conjunction with cleanlanguagecourse.com. So if you're a hypnotic facilitator, coach, or any other agent of change and are looking to significantly increase your impact and efficacy, Clean Language Course will hand you the keys to co-creating with your clients deeply personalized, high impact, and genuinely transformative experiences. This week, there's 25% off lifetime access if you want to jump on that right now. First of all, I want to say this. If you're trained in clean language via James Lawley and Penny Tompkins' lineage, the symbolic modeling lineage, there's a good chance you have not been exposed to this four-quadrant model. I learned this from a guy called Norman Vorton, who was very close with David Grove. And I think it's a sort of older piece that perhaps got left behind. But I find it very, very useful. So there are four quadrants. The first quadrant is the conversational space. The second quadrant is the kind of embodied internal experience space. And it's going to sit down here if we lay that out. The third quadrant is the spatial organization. It's how things unfold out in terms of spatial organization. And the fourth quadrant, and I don't know much about this quadrant, by the way. I've never done any work in this quadrant, but I'll just let you know what it is. It's the ancestral quadrant. It's all I'm going to say, all to do with ancestral material connecting back across long arcs of time. As I understand it, as I say, I learned this from Norman Vorton. We did not go deep into that fourth quadrant. It just got mentioned. So the first three quadrants are what are of significance here. They are what influenced me in my own work. Quadrant one, conversational. What does this mean? So all changework sessions are going to begin in the conversational space. They have to do this. And this is an important space because this is the space where we get rapport. It's an interpersonal space. So rapport between you and the client, that's a major piece in this first space. But it is not the objective of clean language and clean facilitation to get rapport with your client. In fact, one of the things that David Grove was really clear about is it was way more important to bring your client into a deep rapport with their own material, their own inner world, their own inner experience, what wants to come through from the body-mind system. This is the realm of quadrant two, moving into quadrant two. And this is where this term going psychoactive comes from. So for David Grove, when you're in quadrant one, you can be in a very conversational space, you could be in a very intellectual space, but there's no real rapport with what's unfolding through the body system, what I sometimes call the sort of deeper intelligences of the body. There's no real connection with that. So it's not really psychoactive. So he would say it would go psychoactive when you cross this barrier from quadrant 1 to quadrant 2, where you get into the embodied stuff. Now, this term psychoactive, this is something that's borrowed from the realm of sort of entheogenic drugs, this sort of thing, substances, psilocybin, etc., that would evoke rich experiences. And you might think, well, why is it being used here? Because there is something about the vividness of the experience that is related to those psychoactive experiences. When somebody crosses that threshold from quadrant 1 to quadrant 2, things really start to come alive in a very vivid way for them, and it becomes psychoactive. Okay? So this embodied stuff wants to come through. Now, this, of course, raises the question about conversational hypnosis. It's clean language conversational hypnosis. You can use clean language in quadrant 1. You wouldn't do it purely, it would be too weird, but you can intersperse it with general conversational stuff. You can get things happening in that quadrant 1. A lot of people from the NLP world, they bag out counseling and stuff like this. A lot of counselors are quite bad. A lot of NLPers are quite bad. But good counselors can get shifts through conversation alone. So they are largely in that quadrant 1 space, although they are probably tickling the edges of and dipping into that quadrant 2 space, maybe even touching the quadrant 3 space. But they are grounded largely in quadrant 1. And while you're in quadrant 1, things will seem mostly conversational, but you may play with the dynamics a bit. Now, the last video I put out, somebody said something about me using an affected hypnotic tone at some point. And I pointed out in my response that it's not an affected tone. It's a tonal shift that remains in connection with and congruent with the kind of experience that I'm looking to evoke and unfold, right? So it's not just merely putting on a voice. So what you often do, and you'll see if you look at old videos of David Grove working, things would slow down. There would be more emphasis put on certain things, and therefore what gets communicated is we're in a different realm now, and we're doing something very deep and very significant, and we're inviting a certain quality of attention. These are non-verbal elements that start to bring people into this psychoactive space that is the realm of quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. It is not just simply a sort of hypnotic tone. And what I would say as a practitioner is when you're doing this, you learn to feel the quality of it, right? You want to slow down the intellectual mind. You want to encourage people out of the intellectual mind and into the body mind. So this is quadrant 2, is stuff that's happening in the body. So that's, a lot of that is non-verbal, right? And this is one of the reasons why I don't like the term clean language, because it is not all about the language. Absolutely not. It is hugely about these non-verbal qualities, because you are inviting a different quality of attention. You're inviting people into different attentional spaces. A huge part of this is non-verbal. And of course, once you go fully psychoactive and you go really deeply into the psychoactive space, you could say that's not conversational anymore. Of course, from a hypnosis perspective, you haven't done a formal trance induction, but it has shifted in that direction that some hypnotists would call very trancey. So quadrant 3, what's different about quadrant 3? Quadrant 3 is when the body almost expands out. And I don't mean like the sense that the skin expands out. I mean, the sense of where the mind resides expands. So we think of our mind intellectually as being in our head. But really, our mind is of the system that we are. And the system that we are includes all of our bodies. So as we move into quadrant 2, the mind of our whole body is activating more. But we are actually a body in a larger body. And the larger body is our environment, is the world around us. And as we process, at least perceptually, we tend to spatially organize outside of consciousness and outside of the body. This is particularly true once people start to get into resources and things like this. Sometimes barriers, sometimes blocks. But people's deeper organization of reality that sits outside of consciousness Once it starts to unfold and get mapped out, it is not merely confined to the body. It enters the space around. So you see people all the time, they'll say, I don't know, they'll kind of look out and say, I'm just not sure what I see when I'm looking to the future. And they'll be looking in the direction of the future. They're not looking into their body, they're looking into a space around. Or they might see something like, I know, every time I try and move forward, there's just this block there. And, if you were to ask, and there's a block, and whereabouts is that block? Now, most of the time, they already showed you where the block is. They say, there's a block here, and they show it out in front. In a clean facilitation, you would gesture towards that, and you would say, and whereabouts is that block? You know full well they just showed you. But the facilitation is bringing what is outside of consciousness into consciousness, not into the spotlight of the intellectual rational mind, just into presence in consciousness, so that somebody can be with that and interact with that in different ways. So this is quadrant 3. It's still psychoactive. It's very psychoactive, right? Now, again, this is why clean language is a misnomer, because we want to work with these things non-verbally. And at this point, I shall say this. I am not a clean hypnotist. I'm not strictly clean. Of course, this stuff is a huge, huge influence on me. It shapes everything that I do. But I've got this kind of whole Ericksonian side as well. So the clean and the Ericksonian, they roll together, and a big NLP side as well. So I tend to find this 3D psychoactive realm, this quadrant 3 realm, extremely useful, because people are operating in that realm outside of consciousness all the time. Once you learn to pay attention to how people spatially organize, you can start doing things that are less than clean with it. You can, move things out the way. I was doing a session with somebody the other day, and they talked about a resource that they had here, and they said, but that's also, can't see this, is slightly off camera. I'm going to change the location. They talked about a resource, let's pretend it was here. They said, but that's also where the kind of anxious feelings are as well. And they had the resource, and they put their hand under the anxious feeling. And I said, so there's an anxious feeling and a resource. I can't remember what the resource was named. I said, so when you move that anxious to one side so you can feel this resource fully, what is it that you notice as you're feeling this fully now? Right? Now, that is not strictly clean by any means. But it's learning to work within that quadrant 3 of David Grove's model, becoming very adept within that realm that enables you to do these kind of orchestrations. Now, some people who have learned NLP approaches will go, oh yeah, I get that. That's like a visual anchor or a spatial anchor, spatial/visual anchor. You could think about it like that. I tend to think about it, instead of anchoring, as orchestration. Right? You get to really orchestrate. Now, outside of consciousness, when you gesture towards somebody's spatial organization that's in that quadrant 3, whether you bring it into their consciousness or not, unconsciously, they know exactly what you're referring to. So if you think about hypnosis as a communication that bypasses the consciousness, learning to operate in quadrant 3 is incredibly useful, regardless of whether you intend to stay clean or not. All right, so those are 3 out of the 4 quadrants. I wanted to share that model with you. I find it very useful. I find those different realms incredibly useful to distinguish from each other and become adept in. So for myself, I will do a lot of change work in largely quadrant 1, dipping into quadrant 2 and quadrant 3, but without really bringing those vividly to life, right? Or that would be like the conversational hypnosis realm. Or I can really dive into quadrant 2, right? And sometimes the client may close their eyes and we're doing something more classically trancey, although interactive, and they're really deeply absorbed. This fixes the problem of depth. I promise you, you don't need to force depth on somebody or encourage depth. When people become absorbed in their own material that's coming through, they will go richly and deeply into the experience. You don't have to do any deepness. It takes care of itself. So that quadrant 2, you have people kind of go inside, the classical hypnosis zone. Quadrant 3 is open, expanded, aware, and spatially organizing around. These 3 quadrants are well worth being operational in if you are looking to be, the best possible change agent you can be, the most adaptive, the most flexible, the most able to navigate the different terrains of your client's psyche. All right, so I don't think there's anything else that I really need to say about this. If you want to learn some stuff about this, want to learn about this Grovian facilitation, psychoactive facilitation, clean language, these sorts of things, you can find out more on cleanlanguagecourse.com. Should be pretty easy for you to find. I will put a link in the About section. If you've got any questions about any of this, of course, please do use the comment section, ask the questions. And if you've got something from this video, especially if you're here at the end, please do give it a tip with a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to subscribe, hit the notifications bell. We shall continue to explore all things hypnotic facilitation, neurolinguistics, that kind of thing. Also on this channel from time to time, we ebb and flow with this, but I touch on how this stuff works outside of, client work and that sort of thing. What is it like to show up in the world with these skills and use them to bring about the kind of results that you love to have in your life. Okay, nothing more to say for today, other than I very much look forward to when we next connect.